Alright, hopefully your notebooks are open to a new page. Today we are going to be talking about compositions of functions, which is the title of today's notes. And it's snowing pretty hard out right now. But let's assume there's not a snow day, which means the date is the 6th. If there is a snow day on Monday, then change the title of your notes. Okay, so compositions of functions combine functions to get one output. It's basically like function notation, but with a function instead of a number. So it can be written two ways. First way looks like this. Second way is what we'll mostly be using. Looks like this. And this is going to be read. Sorry, my watch keeps hitting the table. Read F, oh, just kidding. Started with G. G of F of X. So same idea as function notation, but instead of substituting in a number, so on Friday we did like F of 2. Everywhere our X value was, we replaced with a 2. Now what we're going to be doing is like F of G of 2. So with our F of X function, everywhere there's an X, we're going to substitute in G of 2. So let's do a couple examples. Example 1, we're going to use two tables, F of X and G of X. Maybe pause the video so everyone can copy this table down, or these tables, I should say. So with this, I could give you an example, like F of G of 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to work inside out. We're first going to focus on G of 1. What is G of 1? Well, the X value is 1, so I'm going to go to where X is 1 and G of X, and what is the corresponding Y value? The corresponding Y value for this one is 1. So I'm going to simplify this to be F of 1. Now all I have to do is go to F of 1. What is the Y value? And in this case it's negative 1. So F of G of 1 is negative 1. B, G of F of negative 1. So for this one, we are going to look at F of negative 1 first. Oops, I forgot parenthesis. Okay, so F of negative 1, I'm going to go to F of X. When it's negative 1, what is Y? In this case, it is 3. So this simplifies to G of 3. Now I'm going to go, okay, when X is positive 3, here, what is Y? In this case, it's 5. So G of F of negative 1 is positive 5. And that's it. So what I would recommend now is with your groups, you do C, which will be F of G of 0. So to solve for this, what you're going to do is you're first going to look at G of 0. So when X is 0, what is Y? Negative 1. So I can simplify this to be F of negative 1. And I'm going to go to F of X function, and we have negative 1. It's right here. Oops. Whatever. When it's negative 1, we have 3. So F of negative 1 is going to be 3. And that's that. Second kind of example I could give you is a graph. So here are two graphs. Let's label. The first graph is going to be f of x. Second graph is going to be g of x. So you might want to pause the video so you can copy it down. The first graph is just the parent of a quadratic function. So you have 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, negative 1, 1, negative 2, 4. And then g of x is just the linear function with a slope of 1. So what I could do is give you an example like A, where I say, okay, what is f of g of 1? And you're going to do exactly what we did in the other problems with our tables. So what we're going to do is we're going to first look at g of 1. So looking at g of x, when is x 1? So that's right here. And the y value is also 1. So I can rewrite this as f of 1. Now we go to the f of x function. What is f of 1? Here's 1, so f of 1 is positive 1. B, let's do f of g of 2. So first, look at g of 2, which is right here. X is 2. So g of 2 actually ends up being positive 2. So I'm going to simplify this to be f of 2. Now I'm going to look at my f of x function. What is f of 2? So here's 2. F of 2 is going to be positive 4. Alright, one more example. And again, I would recommend pausing the video and doing this example with your group mates. So what is g of f of negative 1? So what we have to do for this one is look at when f is negative 1. Sorry, when f of x is negative 1. So negative 1 is right here. F of negative 1 is going to be positive 1. So this whole thing is positive 1. I'm going to rewrite it as g of 1. Now we look at the g of x function. When x is 1, y is also 1. So our final answer is 1. Pretty straightforward. Third example I could give you is slightly different. So example 3, something I could do is give you two equations. We first have f of x being 3 plus x minus 1, and g of x being 1 plus x plus 2 squared. So this is going to require a bit more algebra. So example A, we're going to do f of g of 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by writing out whatever the first function is, which is f. So I'm going to start writing the f of x function. 3 plus square root. But now I get to the x value. Well, what is the x value supposed to be? This one, x is g of 2. So we're going to replace this x with g of 2. So I'm going to write 1 plus 2 plus 2 squared. And then I'm going to continue the f of x function, which was just minus 1. Extend our radical. So this is f of g of 2. Now all I need to do is simplify and solve. So I'm going to bring down my 3, parentheses first, so 2 plus 2 is 4. Bringing everything down, 4 squared is 16, 16 plus 1 is 17, so we have 17 minus 1. 17 minus 1 is 16, so I have 3 plus the square root of 16. Square root of 16 is 4, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So f of g of 2 equals 7. And that's my final answer. If you're wondering what lines are required, I am, as always, going to require your first line. And then I'm okay with you simplifying a little bit. And then just, I don't know, doing the square root and your final answer. So we'll say that's the minimum amount of work. So for the second example, B, I would recommend pausing the video and trying to do this in your groups. So we're going to do g of f of 5. So maybe pause the video, have a couple minutes, and see if you can do this with your group mates. Because it's g of f of 5, I'm going to start, let's do 2 new colors. I forget what we did. Let's do pink. So I'm going to start by writing out my g function, which is 1 plus parentheses, and then I get to x. Instead of having x, I want to replace x with f of 5. So I've got parentheses 3 plus the square root of x minus 1, but x is going to be 5, so I have 5 minus 1. And then I'm going to continue writing, and I've got plus 2, and then all of that's going to be squared. And now we just simplify. So 1 plus parentheses 3 plus the square root, 5 minus 1 is 4, plus 2, all of that's squared. Square root of 4 is 2, so we get 3 plus 2 squared. 3 plus 2 plus 2 is 7. And 7 squared is 49, and 49 plus 1 is 50. So my final answer, g of f of 5 is 50. Okay, so all we're doing, remember, recapping, is we're doing the same thing. We have g, and all we're doing is we're replacing the x value with f of 5. Okay, so your homework tonight is a worksheet practicing all of this. The copies I have are class copies only, so please work on your homework, use your group mates, use your notes. If this video is too fast, then feel free to grab some or take out your own headphones and rewatch the video to try to help you. And I'll be checking your homework tomorrow. Okay, so hope you have a great afternoon.